Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy. And thanks for joining us today, August 31st, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian Feast and Marian Meditations. Today we have just a handful of things, but it's always a wonderful day in the Marian world. First off, we start with the Abbot Orsini, who tells us they celebrate Our Lady of the Founders in Constantinople. Okay, so the Empress Saint Pulcheria erected this church and gave it the Girdle of Our Lady. A feast of this relic is kept at Constantinople under the title of the Deposition of Our Lady's Girdle. The French having taken the city, this precious treasure was carried off by Nivellon, the Bishop of Soissons, and placed in the celebrated Abbey of Our Lady with a portion of the veil of that Queen of Heaven. We're told that during the reign of the Emperor Arcadius, this relic was found in a household in Jerusalem, brought to Constantinople, where it was placed in the Church of the Blessed Virgin Mary, in a place called Kalekepratoi. The area is associated with several miracles, including curing an incurable fatal disease from which the Empress Zoe, the wife of the Emperor Leo, was dying in 486. Later, the Empress Pulcheria had gold threads sewn into it, right? And then later, it was said to have been moved for safekeeping to the monastery of Vatapedi at Mount Athos, right? Also, in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, they celebrate Our Lady of Sorrows, because on August 31st, 1843, 1,800 men carried shovels and pickaxes from St. Mary's Catholic Church to a new cemetery in Halifax, Nova Scotia. By evening, that group of 1,800 devoted men had built a fine church there. This amazing project, the Church Built in a Day, as it was called, was the brainchild of William Walsh, the Bishop of Halifax, and like many of his flock, a native of Ireland. The next morning, he dedicated the new cemetery to the Holy Cross and the church to Our Lady of Sorrows. He later furnished the chapel with the 16th century sculptures that he had brought from Europe. Those Flemish works, Christ bearing the cross, a crucifixion, and a lamentation of Christ, now actually reside in the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia in Halifax, right? In the church itself, there are replicas, right? In Belgium, they celebrate Maria Motter de in Middelares van Genade, Mother and Mediatrix of Grace. This is actually the patronal feast of the Diocese of the Armed Forces, as well as certain parishes and religious orders. And lastly, I tried to find more information about this, but the Beata Vergine di Europa with an O in Biella. So there is a huge shrine there, right? The tradition says that the foundation of that shrine dates back to Saint Eusebius. The pious bishop loved to go there and prayer, so much so that some even say that he became sort of a hermit at the end of his life there, this beautiful image of Our Lady. Again, several sources mention it. It's certain that there's a shrine there. The relation between August 31st is not clear, but what we can say is this is what we celebrate today in the Marian world on August 31st. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we read the third and concluding point of Meditation 70, Mater Dolorosa, and this point is entitled Divine and Natural Sorrow. We cannot realize the intensity of the human and natural suffering of Mary. How then could we even have an approximate idea of her supernatural sorrow? Mary suffered on losing her son, on seeing him suffer and die. But she suffered especially because she knew him to be God. Who has known God as well as Mary? Who has loved God as much as Mary? Recollect the great love of so many holy souls, of the angels and seraphim. Well, all that is nothing in comparison with the love which Mary bore to her God. How then would she feel the offenses, the insults, the tortures to which men submitted him? If as a mother she felt the echo of his sufferings in her heart, what would she not feel as the Mother of God? People realizing that they have offended God have been known to die of sorrow for their sins. But for a special grace, she would have died at sorrow at the sight of the grievous offenses which the chosen people had inflicted on Christ during his passion. Moreover, Mary underwent all these untold sufferings without any spiritual consolation of any kind. The martyrs were able to suffer joyfully while embracing the cross. The sight of Jesus crucified used to encourage the ascetics, strengthen the anchorites, and harden them in their austerities. But the crucifix, the sight of Jesus nailed on the cross, was precisely Mary's greatest torture. That same one who would be a consoler for others was an executioner for her. That afflicted her maternal heart. Hers was not merely physical sufferings, but although her body did not experience the scourging and the nailing, her sorrow was the more intense, being all eternal, pure, and spiritual. Finally, the climax of this suffering came when Our Lady, content not only to be present at the sacrifice of her Son, came to the point of desiring it. Mary had 2 sons, one innocent, the other a sinner. We ourselves are the latter. If she had decided that the innocent son was to live, she would thus have to accept the condemnation of the sinner. If Mary wanted the sinner's son to be saved, she had to agree to the sacrifice of the other. Which would she choose? As a mother, she had to love us as much as did Jesus, and she had practically reached the point of preferring us to him, inasmuch as she knew that such was the will of God, who did not spare his own Son. She declared that this was her will also, and consequently she did not spare Jesus. There she stood, then, by the foot of the cross, dying of sorrow and yet desiring, even consenting to the death of Jesus, in order that we might be saved. How much love and how much suffering! How great was the price Our Lady had to pay that we might be her children. We generally appreciate and love what costs much. Great, then, must be Our Lady's love for us, since it made her suffer so much. Hence, then, enough ingratitude. Cease making your mother suffer. Love her at the cost of any sacrifice, even at the cost of your life.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.